Here at Mass Solutions, we're celebrating the 5th anniversary of the No BS Marketing Show by doing something special.
We have reached out to people who are important to Dave to ask them their thoughts and have some fun.
To start our 5th anniversary podcast, we decided to get a frame of reference from all of our different guests of family and friends and clients and team members and ask them, when was the first time that you met Dave? And tell us a little bit about that.
First met Dave back in, I think, 2012, maybe 2011 at MECCO in a conference room. And we were talking about LinkedIn strategy. So that tells you, it kind of dates the relationship when you're talking about LinkedIn strategies, because while LinkedIn strategies are relevant today, I think back then it was really important to get corporations and businesses on board and to really understand the importance of using it for business and personal reasons.
We were on a marketing hunt for firms to help represent us. And we went through Vistage, and we had a number of people that responded to our query for marketing firms to represent us. And it came down to Mass Solutions and 2 other firms. And I will say I met Dave first over the phone because he struck me as completely ill-prepared for the meeting with us. Because I could tell that he was a little distracted, but what I thought was distraction was just his way of asking questions that he felt were more important than the standard questions that we heard from every other single person. So he stood out because he didn't ask the standard questions or what are you hoping to do, this and that. He was asking more pointed questions about our business, and that really stuck out to us. And I was one of the things that really made us attracted to Mass Solutions and Dave's style, that no BS style, right? He went straight to the point. So I always remember that meeting over the phone, not knowing that we would have a relationship years later, both as business associates and also as, I would like to think, as good as friends in the business world. And then, so once we contracted with Mass Solutions, I was lucky enough to meet him and some other people from Mass Solutions. Mike Gaddy was one of them when they came out for the more formal introduction and let's get to work meeting. And we went to a number of great restaurants here in the Inland Empire. One of them was the Sycamore Inn here in Southern California, which is on the original Route 66. And I think we must have ordered maybe 4, 5, 6 appetizers, and they had to roll us out of there. But we had a really great evening strategizing and talking and getting to know each other and realizing that there's only one real football team in the world. So that's how Dave and I first met.
Had the pleasure of meeting Dave and the whole team at Mass Solutions when we were looking for a marketing company to represent us and help us with some of our growth strategies. And just so impressed with Dave's personability, his no BS, style. That's now his tagline and trademark phrase. And, we've worked with several other companies, and Mass Solutions just delivered. And they delivered on the advertising. I mean, the spot on market sectors, identifying different demographics and such. Their plans have really come through for us. Our checks have cleared, I guess. So we have continued working together, and that's led to a friendship. So Mass with Dave and his team have been out several times to California. We've even been back to Pittsburgh one time. And so congratulations on 5 years of podcasts and many more to come, my friend.
First time I met Dave was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it was Vistage. So I joined Vistage, and Dave was a part of the group.
When did I first meet Dave would have been about 15 years ago. And I met him through Mike Gaddy when he started working there.
I met Dave through Vistage. So I was signed up for Vistage, went to the first meeting, and just instantly connected with Dave. He and I have similar makeup. We both share the same predictive index, and just yeah, instantly bonded with Dave. Yeah, just a very likable guy. So yeah, just been honestly great friends from with Dave ever since Vistage.
Jerry Zahorchak, who was formerly Secretary of Education for the state of Pennsylvania, previously also a superintendent of schools up in Johnstown. And I got to know each other over 10 years ago. And Jerry was one of my Vistage members. He was a member in one of my chief executive groups. And I remember that he said, Chuck, there's a fellow from Johnstown who I know. It happened to be Dave Mastovich. And he said, I think he would really benefit from Vistage, being a part of a peer advisory board group. And would you talk to him? And I can actually still remember sitting with Dave downtown off of Market Square, having a cup of coffee for the first time, and just chatting about who he was, what he did, where he came from, because I grew up in Johnstown also. And so we had some interesting stories to share, and then a little bit of interesting history as a result of Jerry Zahorchak. And that was really how it all began. And we had that conversation, and we met again, and I decided that to bring him into a group back at that time.
I first met Dave when we worked for National Health Management, and the residence at Hilltop was owned by Monongahela Valley Hospital, and they were our customer for their assisted living community, and Dave was their vice president of sales and marketing.
Dave and I have known each other for about 5 years now, I would say. And we first met, we were in the same Vistage group, which is a leadership and business growth group of CEOs. And I met Dave in my Vistage group. We became friends. And probably within a year or so after we first met, we at Metz Lewis engaged Mass Solutions to help us with some of our marketing needs.
If you're a fan of the No BS show, you've often heard Dave talk about different cliches and different phrases that a lot of people use, and one that you hear all the time is when people have their aha moment. So one of the questions we asked our multitude of guests was, when was that aha moment that you realized Dave was a true no BSer?
I think I knew Dave was a no BSer from the beginning of time. I look back on when I first met him and his career changes up to starting his own firm. We met regularly. We probably got together at least once a quarter, and there were times along the way where we got together more often. And we would lament about corporate things that we thought were just a load of crap, and to a great extent what we would do if we were doing this or that thing on our own. And many of the things that we would talk about often were leadership related. And I think for Dave, what kind of has helped him with this platform seriously is that he's reported to some awesome people in his career, but people who are known to have maybe controversial leadership styles, or some that maybe have been autocratic, others that were unwilling to address a conflict. And one of the things about him is he's taken what he learned from each one of those leaders and somehow incorporated the best parts of what he got from that experience to create the no bullshit platform. And I think it's a combination of his own vision with learning what you wouldn't do if you were doing it on your own. And I think the other thing is that it's relevant. A lot of sales and marketing firms kind of get stuck in a certain way of doing things, and the world is changing very rapidly with technology, what attracts people. And he's on the front end of, as a client, you should be doing this, or, during COVID-19, everything is shifting to this. You want that kind of edgy on the front end type of firm. And I think Dave's leadership is that way because of his own career and his willingness to take the best of each as opposed to put it behind him and move on.
When I first met Dave, I could tell he was a no BS. Dave is a shoot from the hip. He's very genuine. He's very personable. He's one of those people that when you meet, you just want to hang out with him and have a conversation with him just because he's so real. And I think that realness to me gave off that no BS vibe. So I wasn't thinking this man is no BS when I met him. But when we started to talk about it more as our relationship evolved and that became his mantra, it made complete sense because that's who he is, not only as a person, but in business as well.
And I would say the first time I had an aha moment with Dave, because I've had many, because I think working with Dave, he definitely has a superpower. The guy really knows how to take a lot of the things that you're saying and really develop a convincing message. And so, we were working with Dave, and as an engineer, I'm very technical. So I'm always like, all right, hey, it's about the product, it's about the technology. And Dave heard all of that, but he was like, hey, you're not telling the story. That's not a story that the customer really wants to hear. So, working with Dave, I call it his Tom Brady moment. It was a time when he came up with really a slogan that we've been using for the last 5-6 years, which is innovative relationships, innovative solutions. And that to me was just pure brilliance. I was like, man, that's not exactly how I think, but that was definitely a message that our customers wanted to hear because that was what they valued the most. And I think that's a big part of what Dave brings, what the No BS platform brings, is really kind of taking those things that I think are important and really distilling it down to what is really important to the customer.
When did I figure out that he was anti-BS? It was probably the first meeting when I met him, and the Vistage group all came together, and at various points in that day, I distinctly remember Dave truth-telling, in a way that is not typical in the real world.
If you've ever engaged with Mass Solutions or talked to Dave, we always talk about how content can be distributed on so many different channels. And really that's kind of what we envisioned when we started building the No BS marketing platform. It's what Dave envisioned. So there is a podcast, but there's also blogs, there's videos and workshops. So really, we're practicing what we preach, which is utilize content across multiple channels and multiple mediums. No episode of the No BS marketing show would be complete without challenging our guests somehow or some way to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So the next question we asked them was, what's the one specific thing you like the most about the No BS marketing platform, whether it's the podcast, the blog, the video, or workshops?
I think what I really appreciate the most about the No BS platform is the fact that Dave really gets to the heart of the matter. In our interactions that we've had with him, both on the podcast, I've been lucky enough that Dave felt that, what we've been doing here at Cucamonga Valley Medical Group and what I myself as an individual and as a physician, the business leader, whichever hat I may have to wear, lucky enough to be able to be on the podcast. His questions were so straight and to the point that it's so aptly titled, and that it really made me think. It wasn't stock related answers that I had to come up with. It was something that was really genuine and heartfelt. And in the end, I think he really felt that it resonated with more people than I would have given myself credit for. And I think he has a really great way of pulling the best out of you in a platform that many people may not consider as inspirational. But to me, I feel like he really gets to the heart of the matter, and that can be very inspiring.
I agree. I think, when you're developing a marketing campaign or a core culture or a mission or values for a company, successful companies, those come from the heart of the leaders. And this just isn't a tagline for Mass Solutions. I think this is just how Dave is. We have all worked at this point in our lives and careers so hard to get where we're at, especially in this pandemic season, that we do not want to waste any of our time, energy, resources, or financial resources. And I think that's what the No BS has represented to me, and what I've seen Dave demonstrate. And it's a part of who he is, so it's a part of what Mass Solutions has become.
The best part of the No BS podcast that I like is definitely the different stories you get to hear. In marketing, many different stories can be inspirational, and I think through the podcast we get to hear a lot of people's journeys towards success, understand their failures along the way, and really get an opportunity to better ourselves by learning from their experiences.
What I really like about the No BS platform right from the beginning was it really takes away the things that you may think are important and really bring it down to what's most important to the customer. As I mentioned before, we tend to think in marketing terms, at least from a technical perspective of like, what do we do? And that's really not the most important thing. It's really, why are we doing those things? And that to me was what I really liked, in it, that the No BS platform is really teaching me what is most important. And it really starts with that why. And there's the two whys that we've learned is, why are we here? It's not what we do. Why are we here? And that really leads you to the second why, which is, why do your customers buy from you? And you need to understand that. And that's what I love about the No BS platform. You strip away all of the glitz and the glamour. You strip away all of the what do you do and how cool it is. And you go and you really focus on why is that important. And you need to make sure your why is aligned with your customer's why. Because if it's not, there's no point. And that to me is what I really get out of that No BS platform, is understanding why we're here, what our purpose is, making sure everything that we're doing and we are saying aligns with that why.
So I love the No BS podcast platform. I like the fact that he talks to people in different industries at different levels, and about different topics. And what I like to tell everyone at Strada is that I may be the marketing manager and there may be 2 people on my team, but this whole firm is responsible for marketing. And so that No BS platform, I think, really brings that out and brings it alive for CEOs, accountants, business managers, and really helps them to understand that, you have to be engaged and involved in marketing for a business to evolve, and that it has to be no BS.
I think the thing I like the most about the No BS platform is that its intention is to give people real data that they can make better decisions with. I think too often in a lot of corporate cultures, you'll hear people say, oh, it was very well received, which is code for nothing happened, And so I'm anti very well received, and Dave has been that guy. And I think the platform is about that. It's about getting stuff done and being real about what it is you do and what you're trying to accomplish, what your client wants, and doing the math on all of that in a truthful way gets you from A to B faster.
So the thing I like the best about the No BS marketing platform is really the flexibility and innovation that we've gotten from it. Just as a group, Mass Solutions has really been very open and willing to sort of entertain whatever ideas that we've had. And then, they reinforce that through a lot of the other work that they're doing. When you look at their blogs, you look at the creative content that they're putting out there, that I love the slogan. It really highlights you're taking a no bullshit approach to whatever's out there. You produce what people want.
The thing I like the most about the No BS platform is really that Dave finally went with his own vision, his own philosophy about what being a sales and marketing consulting firm should look like and let go of the traditional things that most firms do, because I believe that his greatest success has come from his willingness to believe in himself and his own ideas. I also like all of the things that support the platform, you know, the blogs, the podcasts, the articles, the book, all of the things that Dave has done to support his vision. But I think the podcasts particularly are good at making the point, and it allows him to showcase what's a little bit unorthodox about him.
So we wanted to get a little more personal, and so we asked all of our guests, again, which was comprised of family members, clients, team members. We asked them, what's one thing that you know about Dave that others might not know?
One thing about Dave that I think most people don't know is that Dave is kind of shy and introverted, but he can turn it on and you would never know. And it's like, I see him sweating, even if the sweat's not coming down. And, you know, people just have no idea. He's very charismatic. He's very personable. I feel like he loves people, but he likes his space away from people too. So I think that that's one thing that most people wouldn't know on the surface.
He is one of the most passionate people that I've ever met about what he does for a living. It's, you know, there's business and there's personal. Well, for Dave, the business is personal. I mean, he is so caring and focused on what Mass Solutions is doing. It's just a part of who he is at a level that I don't see in many people.
One thing that about Dave that others might not know, because Dave comes across as being very sure of himself, very confident in terms of direction, how to approach things. And to be frank with you, he's really pretty good in my book, right? Especially on a number of different marketing related activities. One of the best guys that I know on dealing with crisis management kinds of issues, for example, just to give you one example, right, of that, right? Just the ability to communicate, to be sensitive and get tuned in.
The one thing about Dave that other people might want to know or would find interesting is Dave has 3 sons, and there was a period in Dave's life where he wanted to raise 3 mini-me's. So he educated his 3 sons about sales and marketing and his work experiences and his consulting business. And one of the things that he religiously did was he would bring his kids, he would dress them up in suits, and he would bring them to visit us every year on Bring Your Child to Work Day. And I was very proud of them, and they would come in and be very, you know, cultured and well-mannered. And one year, his youngest son had eaten a bunch of chocolate, if I recall correctly, before the visit. And so when they got here to the office, his son was literally off the wall. He was like real loud and boisterous, and he was running. And Rick was trying to introduce him to Rick Irwin, who's my partner, and he got real sassy with Dave in front of other people. And Dave's about proper things in proper places. And so he couldn't wait to like scooch him out of the office. And probably the next 3 or 4 times that I saw him, he started our conversation by apologizing profusely for his ill-behaved children.
I think last year, Dave and I were able to hang out together. We had some downtime, so we both just needed to do some work. And so we weren't filling the time with work-related discussion about our relationship with Mass Solution. We were just found some Wi-Fi at a local coffee shop, and we're just getting work done. And while we were cruising around waiting for lunch, we both happened to have teenagers. And so we were kind of commiserating around, that stage of parenting. And I think what people don't know about Dave is he's a kid at heart. And I don't know I think he'd like to go get in trouble with his kids sometimes. But I don't know if I can say that. I hope his I hope, his wife's okay with that.
That's pretty funny. I think one of the things that people may not know about Dave is kind of tying to what you said, Kyle. I've had the pleasure of having some non-professional business-related time with Dave, and I remember him talking to me about sports-related strategies, specifically basketball, because his son, I think, plays basketball and has a basketball hoop at his house. And he was breaking down offense and defensive patterns and structure, because I think he even coaches, and I was lost. Thank God I was driving and I had something else to focus on, because if I had to pay attention to that, like, I would have totally crashed, because I couldn't. He was so detail oriented with that. And I think more than that, it's not so much that people don't realize that, he's got a mind beyond the marketing and strategy. I think he really has a lot of passion for a lot of things outside of the marketing world. And a lot of it revolves around his family and his kids. And you can definitely see that when you get to spend time with him.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the No BS Marketing Show. We'll be using the month of August to celebrate our 5 years of the No BS Marketing platform, so make sure that you stay tuned in throughout the rest of the month. Remember, ask yourself what is a big idea and build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.